So I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard the news or at least seen the leaks come out about Treyarch's next game in 2024. Now, obviously, it's a little early to be really talking about this stuff, but at the same time, not really, because as we speak, the next Treyarch game is quite literally being developed, or at least, workshopped, and things are getting set in stone. So whether it's going to be called Black Ops 5, or a lot of leaks have also reported Black Ops Gulf War set in the 90s, I really do think that's a work in progress name. I believe the setting and everything, but I don't expect them to release a game called Black Ops Gulf War. But regardless of what it's called, BO5 or literally whatever, doesn't really matter. I've been thinking a lot about what they need to do with zombies in order to make this game succeed and when it does come out. And this video is kind of meant to serve as a bit of a discussion board for the community and as a way for me to get my personal thoughts out there and, sort of in place before the next game. And we do know Treyarch does watch the videos, as the one time I got completely called out on Twitter for using the non-cutout version of the Forsaken logo. So we know some of them are watching, and I figured this would be a good conversation piece for not only me to put out my points for the next Zombies game, but you guys in the comment section to leave your thoughts and stuff and what you would like to see in the next title or iteration of Zombies. So with that said, drop a like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new, and let's get started. My first suggestion is to put a lot of effort into making the maps feel distinct from one another, and this can be done in a variety of ways. One of my criticisms with Cold War, as much as I love the core gameplay, the round-based maps in a lot of ways effectively felt almost the exact same. They were bad guy military bases, and with a few aesthetic changes here and there, it didn't really feel like the drastic difference that we would get, like, with Shadows of Evil going to Der Eisendrache. Totally different settings, different tones, that sort of thing, and I feel like the way you make maps more distinct is not only the exact, layout, setting, and etc., but also having exclusive either perks or weapons or, features that can only be accessed on that map. One of the things that distinguishes Zetsubo no Shima, in my opinion, is the fact that it has some unique weapons in the mystery box, the Razorback, Marshals, etc. Or you'll think back to like BO1 and that map being the first one to introduce stamina up and that sort of thing that helps it feel a little bit more distinct for one reason or another. My second suggestion, and this is a big one for me, is Zombies maps going forward I feel like should have both a main quest and a full-on Easter egg. So hear me out, and I'll explain what I'm thinking. So imagine the Cold War Easter egg format, right? It's very gameplay-oriented. It's pretty straightforward. The things you need to get aren't that hard to find, and Cold War has been criticized for its Easter eggs not really being that, like, in-depth, or they're very easy to discover and repeat, which is fine. It's a main quest, and I think it serves its function well in that. I actually quite like a lot of the Cold War Easter egg design. However, I do understand the other side of the community that is missing that interesting depth or still has that itch to solve puzzles and to not have the game really guide you along at all, and you're not even really sure if it's an Easter egg step or not. I think we could have both formats in a singular Zombies map, and I think the way to optimize them would make the main quest, quote-unquote, basically be sort of like a very challenging but straightforward Easter egg, where it's kind of guiding you along like Cold War. Maybe it literally flat out tells you what to do, but the execution can be really difficult. Think of something like an Elden Ring boss. That's sort of what I'm thinking along these lines, and then you can make the gameplay and the boss fights of these main quests very challenging until you learn them, right? It can be one of those things where I shouldn't be able to beat the boss maybe on my first time around. Should take me maybe a couple tries because the main quest is easy to repeat in theory because it's not, a completely like random and arduous Easter egg. So you can go back and play it again, but the actual gameplay itself should be challenging. However, I should be able to learn it and develop and react to it as a player. I really think the Mephistopheles boss fight in Infinite Warfare is an amazing blueprint for how they should handle boss fights going forward. And then as far as the Easter egg goes, like I said, you can go as crazy as you want with these puzzles. You can do Voyage of Despair clock steps, you can do Dead of the Night Atlas puzzles, whatever you want. Maybe the reward is a little bit different, and it maybe doesn't always have to end in a boss fight, but it can give you different exclusive rewards that only players that have done the Easter egg in the map can also do. It can be significantly more hidden and subtle and low-key, but the main quest itself is still very substantial, and, I think that there is genuinely room for both in a Zombies map. The only map in history that has ever attempted this was the Final Reich in World War II, and I genuinely applaud that map for attempting it. I just think the execution was really bad in that case, but it doesn't mean I think they should throw out the idea altogether. I would like to see this executed rooted in a more modern zombies game, and I think under the right direction, especially with the new people at Treyarch, I think this could be done really well. So that's my second suggestion. Make a distinction between a main quest and an Easter egg, and have them both in a map. My next suggestion is to have a Canon crew back in Zombies. This has a number of benefits. First of all, being a little bit more of that personality that I think a lot of people felt like was missing from Cold War and Vanguard, and having a established crew also helps make the game a bit more identifiable. But then you might say, Chop, but they still have to have operators in the game, right? This is an Activision product. You know, we're beyond those days. We have to have operators, which is fair enough, which is why I think that we should play as a Canon crew initially, but if you do the map's Easter egg specifically, in this case, like, you know, separating the main quest and an Easter egg, you do a map's Easter egg, you can play as an operator, and you're given that privilege to do so, kind of like how World War II did it. I can't believe I'm praising World War II zombies this much. I need to go wash my mouth out with soap. But again, the idea is there. World War II had a Canon crew, but you could play as an operator and you could unlock them through challenges and stuff like that. But I feel like you should only be able to play as the operator if you've done the Easter egg. Perhaps that can be the reward. And it would also make operators in public lobbies, if you see somebody using that, it would make that special. It's like, oh, they've actually completed this map's Easter egg, which might be really hard. So I think that would both give incentive to get operators and use them in maps, and also play the Easter eggs. His next suggestion is a minor one, and I think Cold War did a really good job of bringing this back, but putting the emphasis back on survival into maps is something I would still like to see them continue in that direction. It's like with BO3 and BO4, we were starting to get out of hand with, like, these zombies maps are no longer about just jumping in, shooting zombies, and living as long as possible. Like, it's primarily focused on doing the quest, which is fine for, you know, doing the quest, but it almost loses the original point of why zombies was fun initially. You had a solid survival experience, and that where, like, a lot of the core gameplay loop was, but then you always had that hidden layer underneath to do this quest and this Easter egg if you wanted to. But primarily the emphasis was still on just survival, and I think Cold War did a great job, like I said, of bringing that back into the forefront of the gameplay. Then Vanguard came along and kind of threw all that out the window, but you get the point. You get what I'm saying. It's like putting the primary focus still on survival, but then having a main quest and a hidden Easter egg that the game will obviously not tell you about, I think is a structure for a really solid zombies experience. So recently, I ran a poll on Twitter asking you guys of whether you prefer the model of DLC map packs from, you know, years past, or if you like the live service model with seasonal updates, and the results I got were pretty interesting. As you can see, the paid DLC map pack service won, and I can understand both sides of why people may have voted the way they did. And based on the replies and just the reason I framed that question was because I just think it's two different modes of delivery. The people that voted for DLC map packs being superior, generally speaking, I think they're somewhere along the lines, their argument is something like, in years past, the masterpieces and, like, the best zombies maps ever made were primarily given through DLC, and it's like, if there is a little bit more of an emphasis or a barrier to get into that experience, then they're going to take more time on it. It's going to be a bit more crafted instead of just being, you know, slapped together. And I don't think that's entirely correct, but I also don't think it's completely wrong. It's not the case that because we're paying for this DLC map pack, it's not like the map creators themselves are pocketing that extra money. That just isn't how the model works. But I do really think there is something to be said about maybe these DLC packs being a bit more or less frequent and a bit more grandiose, but there's a little more weight behind it. I think that's true just, like, psychologically. And then, of course, with the live season pass model, I don't need to explain how this works. We have lived it with Cold War and Vanguard and you know, games before that. Even kind of with the Black Ops pass, but not really. I'm just thinking Cold War and Vanguard, it's like, sure, all of these are free, technically speaking, if you pay to get your foot in the door, which is purchasing the game. But if the maps are great, amazing. You got a great zombies map. If the maps suck, who cares? You know, it's really nothing lost. You didn't spend any money on it. Basically, it's the difference between going to a restaurant and paying for something very specific, or paying to get in a buffet and you can just take it or leave it and whatever's there. The paid DLC model is a restaurant where you're going to buy something very specific, and if it sucks, that's kind of annoying because you wasted your money on it. However, you can also pay for exactly what you want sometimes, and when it's great, amazing. Like, it's gratifying experience. And then with the buffet model, let's say the season pass, it's like, obviously you just pay to be in there, you get your foot in the door, but everything can be great or it can be terrible, but it's no harm, no foul if it's not. And that's why I think that poll ended up being so close. I can empathize truly with both sides. A lot of the people that voted for the season pass model were like, anybody who was voting for DLC map packs is crazy, which I don't think is the case, but I understand why they would say that. It's just, I think that the method of delivery and what your expectations are going to be totally different if you're paying for a DLC pack versus just getting your foot in the door and then, you know, whatever comes out during the season happens. I can really understand both sides, and hopefully that was able to illustrate maybe why this poll was so controversial. But at the end of the day, it's literally a restaurant versus a buffet model, and I'm not sure which situation is going to work better for Black Ops 5 or, you know, Treyarch's 2024 game, but it's just something to consider and think about, and I figured I'd bring it up to you guys. And the last thing I want to touch on is storytelling. Cold War got criticized a lot for its storytelling just not really being there or gripping people in the same way as it has in years past, and I also extend this to the Chaos story in Black Ops 4. The difference is there are stories being told to us where the reason the storytelling was interesting or more thought-provoking in the days of Black Ops 1 and 2 and maybe even 3 to some extent was because we were literally writing the story alongside Treyarch. I had a whole speech about this in my Black Ops 2 video, but I think that should be almost in some sense the model they should return to, where it's like kind of half written by Treyarch and half written by the community. This makes us feel way more personally attached to the story and what's going on, and maybe the story itself may not be as like tightly crafted from a technical standpoint, but we are going to be far more interested and invested in it. At least that's my opinion anyway. When you think about it, the only reason the Chaos story had that much of an interest was because it always ended on cliffhangers, not because it was, you know, this open-ended thing like Black Ops 2 was. The cliffhangers were the only thing that made that story, like, intriguing. So we'll see what they do with the story perspective, but that's basically all my suggestions for what I think COD 2024 needs to do fundamentally to make their game work. I think a lot of these suggestions could bring about a stellar zombies experience, and I believe in the guys and girls at Treyarch. You know, they got a really talented team, and I'm looking forward to playing what they're bringing next. So anyways, guys, let me know what you think about my suggestions in the comments below. Hope you all have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you all in the next video. Also, I stream on Twitch, so go follow me. Other than that, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.